work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for it. Boss lady, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. And I go work it properly. I wanna sign my signature, cross my T's, cause I have all the requirements that you need. My resume, flawless. Give me the work, with the work, yeah. 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 Down, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for it. Boss lady, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. And I go work it properly. I wanna sign my signature, cross my T's, cause I have all the requirements that you need. My resume, flawless.
So you all are part of the team that is setting out this morning? Yes. I'm guessing you all are in here. Morning all, morning. What department? Now I think these gentlemen have a flight to catch, so we want to get this show on the road. Deputy DS, good morning. What is
This is why you have to be so careful when you walk in the street. I walk in on my way to school as one does when they have the education to obtain. A man could be like 40-something, stop me and ask me, "Hi, good day, what school is this?" I told them the name of the school, Cool Ivy, which part is located, because I think in man want to know in case he was in his journey. You want to know what the big man tell me? Oh, I just wanted to know so if we could be friends. All I boss man had laughing, he laughing as I just walk off. Big man stopping. A minor who on the way to school to ask to be friends. Big 40 something you'll have back, man. I find only will have no shame and all is the reason why people can't send their girl to run outside.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Yellow is the co-program. This evening, I have our civil engineer, Mr. Kendall Chan, with us, and a few others may join us later on in the program. We are addressing our concerns about the crime situation that's taking place in the country. Ken, I want to welcome you back to the program, and you could share
Thank you
your
very much,
concerns.
Gary.
We are also expecting Senator Damian to join us later on in the program when he can free himself. So welcome, Ken. As
Thank
you
you
see
very much,
here,
Gary.
Alana, if you look at the screen here, Beach family is being terrorized, and what's happening there? is that they're lighting fire, the property on fire. They are shooting at people's houses and terrorizing the people in that area. And I'm sure that could be happening in other parts of the country. So, Ken, if you don't mind, share your perspective a little bit with us.
Well, Gary, first to begin with, thanks again. And, we have so much to discuss. If it's not crime, it's flooding. But yeah, that's a serious concern. Crime, I mean, it affects everyone. In Trinidad and Tobago, um, I would want to say 40 years ago, even 30, 35 years ago, we have never seen or experienced this type of crime. But, however, in the last 10 years specifically, we have seen historic criminal activities in Trinidad and Tobago, from home invasions to muggings, which is robberies on the street, um, homicides. In 2022, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we had 614 homicides, right? Now, in addition to that, according to one of the major newspapers down there, it is reported that 100 plus persons were unaccounted for or deemed missing or reported as missing. So we don't know if they're dead or they're alive or they just left the country without notifying anyone, right? God alone knows. So those numbers of 614, which was a record in 2022, that could have gone much higher, even exceeding 700 homicides, right? If we assume after 30, 40 days, and we haven't heard from these missing persons. So come again in 2024, which is just last year, a few months ago, we had, I believe it was 624 homicides. And I mean, I said, these are record breakers, right? We've never experienced this in the
Look, we
history.
recently saw where our Minister of Culture, relative, I believe was an uncle, uncle, was violently attacked.
Yep.
And I think these criminals are turning up the heat against us. Especially where UNC is in government here. So I think they're trying to manipulate the government in one aspect or the other.
Well, certainly, Gary, certainly, right? And look, there's no secret here that under the PNM, we saw the most amount of crime in the history since we gained independence in 1962, and we may have to go back some more, right? So let us not forget the facts. I mean, we are not just pulling numbers out of a hat here, right? And now the new government has to formulate plans and work over time to get this crime down. And according to the last newspaper article I saw, they usually look at the stats on, I believe it's the Guardian. They post a little update in the second page as you open newspaper there. I believe it was like around around low trees, right? Which I mean, same time last year, we were already at 500 plus. You know, so a lot of work. The PNM government has left a lot of work for us. A lot of problems, challenges. I mean, I was there a few months ago, and usually people will be out sitting out, relaxing, hanging out by the shop and so forth. People say, Ken, we can't do this anymore. We're scared because we don't know who is who here, who wants to rob you or looking at your case in the neighborhood, right? People are living in fear. And that impacts the quality of life because it adds stress to your stress load, right? Having to come home and think, hey, I gotta be careful how I open my gate. So a car park in front of my house there.
Dr. Ramrup is in the house.
Yeah. Go
Hi
ahead, Dr.
guys, hi
Amrup.
guys. Yeah.
We,
Go ahead,
we, we
Ken.
talking
Yeah.
yeah, we're talking about crime, Dr. Amrup, and
Oh my
how
God.
and look, Dr. Amrup, I just want to reiterate here, and this is not a secret, right? But the last 10 years, we have seen crime at a whole different level in terms of the numbers, the stats. the highest number of homicides in 2022, which was 614. And that record was broken just 2 years after, which is last year, 2024. We got 600, the nation saw 624 homicides, right? So as I mentioned to Gary, we're not just putting numbers on our hat here, right? People are living in fear. They're coming home, they're trying to open the gate, they're getting robbed, home invasions galore. And according to one of my colleague in Trinidad, he said, Ken, a lot of the crime is not being reported, right? So these numbers that we're seeing here in the newspaper, it's gonna be way higher, right? But again, the country is not safe, right? And there's a lot of work to fix this problem. Now, I believe as we move forward, we have to address everything. We just kind of just flooding alone by itself. We have to address all of the problems affecting us because it does impact our quality of life. Why should I have to work a 9 to 5 and then come home and have to deal with the stress of a car park in front of my house? I don't know who that is. Or I'm scared to open the gate now to go to the shop, right? So that whole mindset and that fear that we live in, at some point we have to have a turnaround where we can implement strategies to deal with this crime. How are we going to deal with it? I think what the government is doing right now is working because based on the statistics, we are at the I think the mid trees or low trees in terms of homicides. Same time last year, we were already in the 500s plus, right? Closer to the high 500s. So crime is a problem, and we have to continuously revise these strategies because these criminals are also thinking, they're not just sticking to one plan. If they see roadblocks, they could come and case a neighborhood. They have telephone, they have the internet, they have all sorts of stuff, WhatsApp groups. Because I know people back home in somebody's WhatsApp group, they would post, "Hey, a roadblock here in Caroni, South Bank Road, or a roadblock, road checks by the roundabout in Caroni here. The highway has a roadblock here, and the criminals are aware. They're one step ahead now. They would take the next direction. You know, so it's like playing cat and mouse here. Although the technology could help us, it could also hurt us, right? If not used properly or utilized properly. So yeah, Doc, you want to add something to that about the crime and so forth?
Well, I mean, nothing. I mean, I just joined, but I know that what you're saying there is basically the problem. But the the I mean, I had my own experience, many years ago with the same thing. I think I had posted it up on this before, and just next door to me, remember they broke into the house. I'm living next to the prime minister, and next door to
Right.
me,
Yes. Yes.
they had the home invasion, and I had a home invasion attempt, many years ago on Easter Monday, and I shot two persons because I have a licensed firearm, and I still train at the South Trinidad Rifle Association. I'm a lecturer there in um, ballistics and high missile injuries. So what it is that no, I mean, as I said, I have and you are in the states, and you all have the luxury of seeing the response, and how they respond. Let us say to a robbery or something, how the police officers, approach the scene, and how they cut off the key exits and whatever. In Trinidad and Tobago, you don't see that type of organization. A lot of the exits not even covered, and 5, 10 vehicles at the site rather than covering all the possible exit routes, and there's no planning, and everything is a bit chaotic. I mean, I even from my perspective, when you look at forensic medicine, or what we call the medical examiner system, we have district medical officers who are basically medical doctors who went into that part of healthcare delivery, and they became DMOs, district medical officers, and they a lot of them have very minimal training in forensic medicine, or death investigations and all this sort of thing. We still have a lot of problems with death certification, and how they code death certificates in terms of the cause and manner of death. So there's quite a lot of things which are like coming up from last night when we were talking in terms of crime. um, the simple issues are not being dealt with, and when you don't do that, then the bigger crimes show up, and that's the problem. For example, you have a single mother with 4 children, and each child is for a different husband or a different man, right? It's a very common issue and a very common problem in some of the socio the lower socioeconomic areas, right? Um, a lot of these women are unemployed, and obviously they try to get what the child father will bring to them. You understand? We have a social services system that doesn't pick up that, and there's a certain time when these children have to go into an institution, a foster home or something, because the parent has no financial ability to mind these children. And if you continue to deal with by increased police cars, and you're talking about firearms, and you're talking about giving everybody a firearm, and all of these things have a role to play. I agree. But if you don't deal and you don't start actively improving your social system by removing some of these parentless children and put them in government institutions such as military type institutions where they could train and either become a military person or a police officer or a mechanic or a plumber or something. These are the kind of things, because it's better you take them into those environments like Singapore did many years ago, and take them off the streets. When you drive in certain areas of Trinidad and Tobago, in the middle of the day, you have young children who's supposed to be in school and they're outside. There is a law in Trinidad and Tobago that says that can't happen. They have to be in a school, and you could actually pick them up. This under the law, like stray dogs, and
Mm.
and it's still there. And these are the things that has to be enforced, because if you don't do that, you're in trouble. Next thing is that we are talking about the Venezuelans, but although they say it's 100,000, we have much more Venezuelans in Trinidad than the statistics show. All right, I can tell you that for sure. And the reason is that take for example today, one of my previous workers, who is a Spanish boy, went across to Venezuela for Christmas, and he is coming back Sunday or Monday on a boat. So he texts one of his friends and said, if I could help him with $800, which is the equivalent of 100 US, because the boat is charging 300 US to come, and the boat is scheduled to come on Sunday, and he will come on Monday. Now, look at what's happening. Look at all of what the police is doing or whatever. And there's a weekly movement of people between Venezuela and Trinidad, and we talked about trying to cut all of this, and this is happening. You understand? So when we talk about crime and the things that has to be done, these are the things that we yesterday we talked about traffic violations, and we said that if we could improve the monitoring and the enforcement of traffic violations, right? In terms of the literature on crime shows that if you improve the enforcement of traffic violations, you can indeed apprehend many of the criminals for the more serious crimes, because these people, they don't sit down in the bush all day. They drive, they come out, they go buy stuff, they go and get their money, they go and get their drugs. When they make their money on a kill, they go and they spend it, or they give their girlfriend, they move, you see. And a lot of times, the way they drive, the manner they drive, all of these things is you pick it up. And if you have law enforcement officers, in key positions monitoring your highways and byways, you can pick up quite a lot of criminals who are committing more heinous, more severe crimes, serious crimes. So it is a known fact, you see. Having a presence also reduces and mitigates crime. We drove on the highway that day, and I didn't see a squad car parked up on the side of the road at all. So we have to look at that in the perspective, right? And it's very important. Then we looked at another type of crime, cyber crimes. Good. Right now, if you look at the TikTok and you look at Facebook, and you can't believe 90% of what you're seeing on the post, because a lot of it is fake. A lot of advertisements are geared towards taking people money, right? I mean, even even mimicking politicians. I mean, just recently, you know, one of my friends who used to be a minister of energy, right? He's working on the Petrotrin project, and they posted a TikTok with him, in a false advertisement, trying to get money, from people by giving them your Visa card. So that also is a serious thing. They had RHA Southwest. Remember that? They hacked into the RHA system, right? They're still recovering from that, and not much was said about that. Even TSTT was hacked. The big phone company, Trinidad and Tobago's TSTT was hacked. So again, the nature of crimes is not just murders. Murders is the tip of the iceberg of a bigger problem, a social problem, right? So when you hear about the crime, right, and you are seeing one approach, and you're not seeing the Ministry of Social Services then talking about a policy to take homeless children and parentless children and put them in public institutions or military institutions, and you're not hearing about these programs simultaneously, because who is committing the crimes, right? The Venezuelans are not going to school. So if you talk about they're here since 5 to 10 years ago, you have 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds who have not gone to school, right? And if they have not gone to school and they are not getting gainful employment, right, what they are going to do is to revert to crime, right? And we are now seeing this, right? So therefore, if the government now, PNM obviously didn't do crap. If the government now is saying, well, look, I'm going to send back a lot of Venezuelans, what about the ones who were born here and are now 10 to 12 years old, right? They have legal, a legal, what we should say, rights to become nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. So what we are doing with them, and you're not even putting them in schools, so you're developing a population of criminals again, right? So are we seeing this addressed, and what is the policy with respect to that, in terms of educating the Venezuelans who are legal as well as illegal, right? So, yeah, that I mean, I'm just talking loud because you asked the question, and of course, well, in my category of crime, that's forensic medicine. I sent a document earlier today, and I'm just hoping that the government try to now think out of the box and introduce the forensic medicine system, because death investigation needs a lot of training. I mean, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have Hunters Search and Rescue, which is not a government agency, but a private agency now is being called by citizens and residents of Trinidad and Tobago to look for a deceased one or to respond to emergencies.
Even the
Like the late,
police and the fire service calling them.
this is what I'm saying. And this is what happened down in Woodland where the lady went up the road. They called Hunters Search and Rescue before fire came on the scene. Before fire came on the scene, they have a penal fire station. Hunters Search and Rescue came looking for the lady. So if we are to look at these indicators, right? Hunters Search and Rescue is finding bodies, right? Ian Allen, right, is finding out the details of murders and homicides and suicides in villages because he's paying people for the tips. You understand? And I mean, everybody here knows the long time policing, where police used to set traps for people and give tips to these people who would give them information. That is still done in all the states. It's done in New York, it's done in Toronto. I mean, my cousin is a detective in New York. right? Anna Ragunanan is my cousin, is my mother's brother's son. We are blood cousins, and he's a senior detective in New York City, right? And they still, when I met with him for his daughter's wedding a couple of months ago, they're still doing these things, and therefore, I'm not sure what is happening if Ian Allen could pick up these tips and not the police, and if Hunters Search and Rescue could go and find bodies and not the police. Well, we're in a serious problem, and we have to rectify that. So it's just my two piece on crime. I mean.
Well, my position. I always say that I have a serious concern about the level of management in the TTPS, and we have seen more so, far too often of the discrepancies there with how things are managed. And I think that if we're going to battle, we cannot go half cup. All right, we have to go fully equipped and fully trained. And I think the management of the police force is a very big issue, and I don't care how much they try to dust it under the carpet. It's either they're involved with the criminals, their attitude stinks. I mean, they have very good officers there. I mean, because I have family and relatives that there. But I mean, you run into too much of arrogance when you're seeking assistance, and they are ill-equipped, ill-trained, untrained, and are not ready to respond. They don't have a sense of urgency when you go there seeking help, and how to manage a situation. Like I said, we have a long way to go. And yes, we in government, but winning government is this capturing the beach.
Yeah, yeah. So, question, Dr. Ranup, you think if because you mentioned the mobile patrols and so forth, right? If we were to implement a system of satellite police officers, right, like a little mobile unit just off the highway, every 5 miles, one at a Shogunas, one somewhere down by the Bird Sanctuary, where we have the patrol that could move and could lock down the street. Then in the more rural areas, Shogunas, Felicity, these areas, like a major intersection or a node, if we could have a 24-hour police presence there, right? And we could try to now encourage communities to build on their watch groups and where they could come and partner with the local police
Yeah, but
officers.
Ken, what we need is local government to work with the community on doing that
Correct.
together with the police. And this is something
Correct.
I've been preaching for more than 15 years or more. You know,
So then we
and
need to have
and
some
it is,
discussions.
yeah, it's a very lackadaisical thing. It's like some people don't want you to tell them what to do, but we can't win this battle where we're going.
Right. And that's a problem. If people think they can handle the problem by themselves, right? At some point we have to measure the results, you know. Um, but I think in order to really solve crime, the community has to come together and then we have to partner with law enforcement, right? And have that relationship where we can have a satellite police mobile unit within a community working closely with the watch groups, conversing, talking about ideas. Hey, we just saw a man, somebody strange moving to the block here, and a lot of cars moving, out around his home. Maybe he's selling drugs or something to that effect, right? And we get the information around, and then we start to investigate it, look at it, you know, and we be a little more innovative. We're gonna, implement a drone unit system in nighttime. Let's say we have a strange vehicle parked somewhere on the street. I know as a watch group member, I don't want to go and have to knock in somebody's glass and say, "Hey, I saw you sitting down here for the past 3 hours now. Are you lost or something? Are you looking for someone?" Absolutely not. Maybe the guy pull a gun and just shoot you. But if we have a drone and we can fly the drone around and pick up some data, pick up a license plate, right? Or maybe you can scare off a bandit. So we have to look at innovative ways to try to deter crime.
I
And I
strongly
think
believe, I strongly believe, if we get our act together in our local community, I'm sure there are business people who will donate willingly to
definitely,
our drone.
definitely, we could have someone train on flying the drone. We can have a backup drone
because
also.
they are assisting this hunt and social rescue the team. They're donating drones and things to them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't see why if municipal government get the act together with the councillors and we start to organize our people in collaboration with the police. The first thing you want to do is deter. That's the number one thing. Is
Right.
deter any intention of criminal by showing the presence of people watching and patrolling and
Well,
And
there is a course that is done, right, for law enforcement officers and support teams like technical teams and forensic officers, called clandestine graves, right? It's a forensics, part of the forensic medicine course called clandestine graves and their detection, right? In that course, they will tell you the technology, but the signs that you will see in the ground, right? When a person is, when a person is put in a grave, a shallow grave, or even, a deeper grave. And obviously, the search and rescue, the hunter search and rescue, they have developed a sort of competency and skills over time, right? They probably don't even have training in the proper, course and the type of equipment, but they obviously have a lot of, you know, highly developed skills based on their past experiences and maybe some technical knowledge. And this is a course that is done for all police officers on the field, right? This is a course that could be done, in association with the U.S. government, where they could go into the FBI field and they could run like a 6 weeks course with some of them, to look at some of the graves that they simulate over there. Or we could even do the same damn thing here, in terms of our training as a regional approach to forensics medicine training. So I know that the Honorable Prime Minister is, that's one of the things that she wants to do at the South Campus. And I mean, I personally don't mind getting involved in that. Probably the best thing for me because it's close to me and I'll be able to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So I think that in in a sort of nutshell, it has to be a multifaceted approach. Ken, in terms of the response to your
exactly,
question,
exactly. It
yeah,
has to be multifaceted.
yeah, because there are public safety aspects of crime detection in the current system where ODPM is the public service, the what we should say, the entity, right? Not legislated, but it's still the entity. They have a what is called a 24-hour situational awareness for public safety, and that is using early warning systems, right? Seismic as well as flood warnings. They have early warning systems in terms of using the Amateur Radio Ham Radio Association, that's REAC, as well as the TTARL, and they actually are quite a good communication system because they actually live in the villages and whatever, and they connect with each other on ham radio, and they can actually give you what is happening in the villages, and you get information coming to the ODPM via that. It doesn't go to police because there are certain trends that you see that will be happening in the villages and the little towns of Trinidad and Tobago, such a small country, that the ham radio people will send back the message to the public, to the ODPM, and the ODPM sends that message into the representative on the National Operations Center. So in addition to what Ken is talking about in terms of having the satellite mobile patrols and the technology, of course, Sumant can tell you about AI and whatever now, and even people with app. Everybody has a smartphone, right? Almost every house has at least 2 to 3 smartphones with now a camera and a video in it, right? So, in other words, then there is a police app, but marketing that app has not been tremendous. People can actually take that app, right, if it is properly supported, and they can take videos and whatever and send it to the police command center immediately. The operations of having all of these satellite police, posts, as it were, it depends on a tactical efficiency of a squad to respond to the problem. So although you might see something with a drone, although you might pick up something in a village and report it back to the police command center, right? concomitant with that is that you have to have a highly effective tactical response system. You understand? It's no sense saying that you see something and you can't send a police car to get it, to sort it out, or you can't have about 5 or 6 police cars coming in all different directions to try and deal with the issue. You understand? You have might one fella, 1 or 2 police officers in the middle of the night, going on the road to sort out the problem. And of course, on a weekend, they're probably making a broth in the police station and they don't have the car because they went out to buy the fig of the road with the police car. You know, so and I'm not even asking you. I'm telling you what goes on. So it means therefore that we have operational efficiency within the service, but tactical response comes with a command center and as well with a properly operating national operation center. Right now, obviously PNM messed up the national operation center because their national operation center did not include the public safety and public department like ODPM and the other agencies. They only had police in it. Now, I understand that the current minister, right, has done the same. And they have put an ex-policeman in charge of the NOC. And we sent quite a lot of information on what the NOC should be in this chat. Unfortunately, today it's so many months, and one of the most important elements of this government, not just in terms of crime, but in terms of the business continuity planning or the continuity of government, right? One of the most Gary would understand. With his military friends and everything else, Captain, all of them, and all those boys on it will understand, right? Our doctor in Venezuela will understand that the one of the most important imperatives is to secure your government. It's what is called the continuity of government protocols, right? And inherent in that is your national operations center, and it has to be properly functioning. So I still think that crime, the brain, right, in terms of recognizing and having a clearinghouse of all the information elements and systems, all the technologies and methodologies for you to get the incidents and information reported, the early warning systems, the satellite police posts, right? The incidents that occur in your villages and towns reported by your community policing people in association with your local government, right? The drones that are flying, around in your villages, picking up these little things. The suggestion that we had talked about for Wayne Sturge, right, to put these satellite military installations along the coastlines, right, using special vehicles where the soldiers could actually stay there and sleep there, and use drones which can only fly for a certain amount of meters, the kilometers. They can't go too far. So by using the drones, you can actually connect each one of those satellite military outposts, right, along our coastlines, especially on the coastlines where we have porous borders. Just by having the presence there and the drone to support the Coast Guard tactical responses. So the Coast Guard don't have to be driving around in silos, right? They wait until they get information so that they are more specific and focused, go into the area rather than looking for a problem. They are directed to where the problem actually occurs by having the military installations along the coastline, using the vehicles. There are special vehicles like buses can. In Singapore, when you go, they show you that they use it. It's like a bus, a big bus, right? And the middle of the bus folds down and it opens up using a electronic system. They have a kitchenette, a washroom. It's air conditioned, and it dispatches the drone. And when you're ready to move it, you can actually pull down everything and flick the switch, and you're gone. You understand? So it's technology, but it doesn't need any big fancy stuff, right? It just needs a knowledge of what is. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Again, with that, I'm not being repetitive, but your social services ministry has to begin to start mapping all the homeless people, all the children who are supposed to go in school and are at home has to be sent to an institution, right? All the single parents who cannot, who are unemployed, the state have to take care of these children. They become the state ward until the mother or the father gets a job, and they can show to social services that they can now see about the children. We give them back the children. In the meantime, they go to a military type installation, they get schooling, training, and we move them into either a sort of law enforcement type of occupation, or they come back into the trade, or the profession, depending on how intelligent they are. Now all of this has to be done, right? And if it is not done, right, we spin it top in mud.
Certainly, certainly. Um, I like the idea with the drone that you just mentioned, the bus there, the mobile drone unit. And that will cover a lot of ground. It'd be very, very effective, especially if you have that infrared camera in there. You could see movement in dense thick vegetation and so forth. So that will be a big plus when it comes to protecting and monitoring our borders. And then the Coast Guard, as you mentioned, Doc, that's a very important point. The Coast Guard don't have to be running up and down burning fuel, right? They could be stationed strategically and have the drone deployed, moving up and down, surveying and monitoring a certain alignment, right? And once there's something suspicious, then they move in and they take control or investigate. So we have to take advantage of the technology that's available, right? In order to really yield the results, the desired results. So I like those ideas. And but again, we have to partner with the local government, as Gary mentioned, right? And we have to work as a well-seasoned team with the community. One thing I want to also mention, Doc, and you could also tell me if this is a good idea to inspire people in different community watch groups, right? I know a lot of you might be hesitant, they have to work, etc. Why don't we uh, go into a community and say, hey, members of the community, we're looking to assemble effective, efficient watch group, right? A group of able-bodied people in the society. We have the police train them also, and we issue them FULs, firearms. So they have their personal firearm with them, right? And when they are on patrol, they can have the firearm with them. Because when you're up and down, I mean, say in the wee hours in the morning, you don't want to be exposed there, and you don't want to increase your risk, right? If there's a situation where you have to fire a shot or one shot and so forth, at least you have your FUL. So I think it would give people incentive also to come out and volunteer.
It,
What do
it
you think
has
about
to
that?
be it has to be structured around local government because they are the officials for the electoral district, the jurisdiction there, and they have to collaborate with the police, get organize the police in participating. So it would help more
Right.
so if the minister of local government helps to initiate the structure, work out the logistics with the TTPS, and then you start to break it down with your local municipal or jurisdiction police station there, whoever the sergeant is. But it has to come from on top. Where I mean, people can organize their own watch group. I mean, we could share the idea to the people in the community that this is what you can do, but we cannot go there and organize anything because
No, no,
there's
definitely, definitely.
jurisdictional thing, right, Dr. Amro?
Yes, 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 that is correct. Yeah. Mhm.
So I mean, we could share an idea. The people could pick it up, but it's still it works better when you have the collaboration of the police because we become the eyes and ears of the police, and we could handle things more on target because they're getting real time information from us because we are feeding them, and it makes the chase, the apprehension, the deterrence, everything, as I see it, more effective.
Well, you see, this is
Correct.
the science, right, behind the human body, right? Every single one of the five senses, right? It is connected by very fine nerves, right, to the brain via the spinal cord, right? Your spinal cord could be seen as your police, like your organs could be seen as your police stations, right? Your spinal cord is the network that connects all the police stations together, to the main command center, right, which is at the base of the brain, and the NOC becomes your whole brain. That basically is what we're talking about. Now, the communities are, as you correctly said, Gary, the burgesses, according to our local government legislation or the act, right, the municipal act. The local government is responsible for all your burgesses, right? So they have the responsibility. Therefore, the the citizenry and the community, right? Every single method of information gathering, right? And the one that we recommend is the one that Cuba, right, has actually implemented. What they use, Ken, we went and we saw it, and we implemented it a bit in Mayaro, in the regional corporation in Mayaro for disaster. They have a system called early warning points, right? Early warning persons. And these persons are retired police officers, teachers, sports leaders, citizens who serve like nurses, doctors, whatever it is, right? And they pick these people in the community and they give them these wireless radios, right? And these radios allow them to connect with each other, right? And that basically is how they connect, right? And what happens? We don't give them in Cuba. They don't give them the firearms, but I understand what you're saying. And they can connect with each other. And listen, if a strange car comes in an area, right? They get that information and they feed it back to the command center, right? And
Exactly. If it turns out to not be nothing, it turns out to be nothing.
and
But
listen,
document it.
and listen, and as
Document
soon
it.
as they do that, law enforcement officers are deployed by the local police police post or police station. Good. Pretty larceny, right? Using drones, using these same citizens, to pick up when you see the guys going into the land, right? Using the ham radio and the reactor connect back to the ODPM and then the ODPM back to the NOC, so it comes from the other side, right? Um, Teaching children in schools about crime and prevention and mitigation, right? The other thing is about Gary is and Ken, there's a law in Trinidad called the Nuisance Act, the Public Nuisance Act, right? Every single on unclean land, piece of land, right, that is owned by an owner or not owned by an owner, right? If the owner does not clean that land, right, it's like an old building, a dilapidated building, and a lot of bush and whatever. And if they don't do that, the local government has the authority to clean it and build them under the law. Yeah, it's under the Public Nuisance Act. And I'm saying, if you look at the people who they kidnapped up in the east, where they had them in a house, right? The lady, yeah. Criminals use these uninhabited, dilapidated buildings all over the country. They go there, they come together and they use it for their meetings and their crime and their smoking and hiding their drugs and their kidnappings and storing their weapons and all this sort of thing, right? So these are, if you begin to clean and get rid of all of some of those places where these people hide and go in their nocturnal activities and limes and whatever, you have to start getting rid of all of that. You have to clean them and use your backhoes and start cleaning a lot of the properties around that could be haven for some of these people. That's another thing, right, that helps and could be done. Right? We talked about traffic, we talked about social, whatever. So I think that we have the answers, and I am hoping that the government has the answers, and hopefully, within a short space of time, some of the things that we mentioned here tonight um, could come up somewhere in a discussion, and people could begin to hear us, and we could see if they're doing it, Gary. That's beautiful, and
Right.
it's not a problem. But it would be nice for them to tell the public that they're doing it too. And we're not
Definitely.
saying
Well,
we're
we,
not
we
saying
need we need. There has. I know we just about 6 months in government, but
yeah.
we just reiterating because it is a life threatening issue. People are in immediate danger, and we need to move with a little. How to say? A sense of urgency in the fact that look, we have been standing by, ready to assist. So we're not leaving everything up to the government. Our team is here to assist. but we need to get moving because their
Yeah,
lives at stake.
I think that we should begin to ask Vandana, right, to suggest the Attorney General and Devish that we should bring up and check the legislation as it pertains to making children wards of the state. All right, children who have parents who cannot take care of them, homeless children found on the streets who the police can bring in now and try to let the government take care of them. And also the Venezuelans who are unemployed, who are not in schools, right? I think if we are to look at 5 or 10 years down the line, this is one of the things that Ministry of Social Services could begin, because crime is not something that is magical. It's done by persons.
Yeah,
It's
well,
done by
and it
people.
doesn't, and the criminal is not become a criminal overnight.
That's correct.
It's over a period of time.
It's done by people. And if you study the criminals, you will realize that it is done by persons who come out of these homes. You wouldn't expect a boy going to Presentation or Naparima and the residential areas where they have a good home to become criminals, right? Unless it's something else. But you are going to find that the criminals are the homeless ones, the ones who are on school, the ones who have nothing to do during the day, and some of the Venezuelans who are not being educated and they form gangs. This is where you're going to get them,
Well,
right?
the Venezuelans are fitting into the environment that we created there.
Yeah. So, as I said, the people who commit the crimes, right? We can go back and tell who are they, and these should be referred back to the social services, right? And we should be stronger with our legislation to incarcerate, right, in military type institutions and hold them there and let them begin to be trained in vocations and rehabilitated, right? I am saying that this is where we should begin. In addition to doing all the little mitigation things for homicides and whatever, I think that this is a big ticket item. In my opinion, the criminals are coming from this population, and we have to now start with taking charge of this population immediately, right? And therefore, if we do that and we get some of them off the streets, we are going to see a reduction in crime.
That is correct. Correct. Because at some point you identify the root cause, right? And most of the time, it's from these vulnerable homes, right? You have a single parent, and you're a mom trying to raise multiple kids
Yeah,
with
this is
limited
the
resources.
science. Yes, Ken. I mean,
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
scientists.
yeah.
I've
You are
seen a
Well,
scientists.
well,
gentleman
well,
here
That's
well,
by the
what we
Gary,
name
have.
of
well,
Daryl
Gary, and
Prasad has joined us. So thank
well,
you. Welcome, Daryl.
yeah, well, Gary and Doc, I grew up in the Bronx, and I saw some of this, the ills of living in the ghetto, right? You saw that vicious cycle, poverty, and it's very, very easy for these kids to go off on the wrong track, especially when you have a single parent trying to raise multiple kids and hold down 2 and 3 jobs, paying minimum wage,
And
right?
when do you kick ball in the street in your apartment block? You're
And then
hanging
all of
on
a
the
sudden,
block.
and then
Yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden, you see the drug man standing in the block there, driving a BMW. All of a sudden, he call you and say, "Hey, just hold this for me, right? Take that and drop it off there and bring it back. And here's $20, right?" And he becomes the role model, you know. So we need to identify the root cause. And I don't think it's as difficult as rocket science. But also, when we identify, what do we do? Do we have the resources, the strategies, the plans in place, the different programs to assist that single parent who's struggling, right? Who's in a very vulnerable state, you know? And just to add to what Doc mentioned there, mm, these are the vulnerable people in society. And if we put together data, right, we would see that this is where we find a lot of the criminals or criminal activity that is being generated in this type of environment, right? And those should be the number one targets, right, for our social programs, for trying to assist, right? Because it's people at the bottom of the socioeconomic strata, right? Doc, we have a new someone just joined, Mr. Prasad.
No. He's in the chat. He's not. He's on
Oh,
YouTube. He's not in there. Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah. So we have to strategize, and we just can't come up and say, well, we have a plan here, we allocated X amount of dollars, and without measuring the progress. I always like to emphasize on this measuring the progress. And that is important, you know, in order to really see if we're achieving those goals, the desired goals, if we exceeding, you know. I think if we put our best foot forward and we look at this from a holistic perspective, I think we'll make a huge dent on crime. We're empowering the communities. We're partnering with law enforcement, right? We're using technology. We're looking at all our transportation system, and increasing our CCTVs, right? Ensuring that they're up and running and they're working and they're really relaying data, right? Real time,
Well, I
and we
mean,
have full
even our citizens are investing in security cameras and stuff like that, which we want to encourage.
correct.
To continue to encourage and support those ideas. So, I mean, if you continue to do these things, then you could lock down your community. So, if one goes across by the neighbor, your camera could pick it up, or somebody comes by you, the neighbor could pick it up.
Right. And God, something, Gary, one point I also want to make, and it's very important, and this is supporting what the Prime Minister mentioned also, you know, we need to arm our citizens. Because when you're sleeping in your home, and all of a sudden you're sleeping sound asleep, 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, a window breaks, or somebody pushing in your door, you have a couple seconds to react, right? Before these guys get into your home. What do you have? What line of defense you have, or firepower to match theirs, right? You mean you pull your firearm, you fire 2 or 3 shots. I think it's going to scare them off, So we need to arm the people also, the law-abiding citizens, and give them a fighting chance, right? And I will continue to emphasize that. Have them well trained, and they can protect their family and themselves in the event of these home invasions that are taking place rampant throughout the country, right? And the Prime Minister mentioned also, he's going to arm the citizens, and I think that is very, very important,
I think if we do it as
But
a community, it works better because you can work together. This is not a one man show. This is not a one man fight. This is not one sheriff
definitely,
war. We all have to collaborate. There has to be collaboration with your community if you're really going to succeed in the way that you need to.
definitely. Because look, in Florida here, right? I mean, let's say, or even Texas, it's a red state, it's a gun state, and you could go in and get a gun like like you're buying a soft drink or something. And people know that if you walk into some establishment somewhere in Texas and you pull a gun and try to rob that, you're gonna some one of these citizens close by will take a shot at you, right? The chances of you getting shot there, or the probability is very high, and they would not take that chance. And we've seen it in multiple videos, even in Brazil. Guys riding around a motorcycle, they try to rob someone, and the law-abiding citizen pulls out his shotgun, and when the chance is right, and he shoots that person. You know, Not that we want to have some kind of gun touting society, right? But we need to give the people a fighting chance. This is no
But
longer where the bandits.
what choice do you have at this stage? Because I mean, we have heavily armed criminals,
That's the next point, Gary.
with very sophisticated equipment. So I don't. I mean, I am not making any apologies at this point. We need to take them hands on.
Yeah, and that's my point, because that's my next point, because a couple years ago, 10, 20 years ago, or let me say 40 years ago, a bandit would come with a cutlass or a knife or something, right? That's the choice of weapon that's available. Now we have bandits running around that place here with AR-15s,
Well,
right?
that was courtesy.
High-powered rifles.
That's courtesy of PNM. PNM built that
Yes,
while they tried to restrain those of us. They allowed the guns to go in the hands, and they were quick to defend those. We want to kill innocent people, children. But the minute we talk about getting a gun license, but in the meantime, them children walking around the country with heavily armed equipment and shooting people, shooting up the place, kidnapping people. So.
and they attacking the soft targets, right? The Chinese grocery store around the corner, you see it on the CCTV. They come in there, they beat up these hardworking people, right? Productive members of society working hard, to earn a living. And these pests running around the place and just taking advantage of them randomly just driving around and looking for soft targets, right? You have to give people a fighting chance, Don't make them sitting ducks. And the prime minister is right, and I will continue to support that. Right? We need to arm our society, our law-abiding citizens, to be specific. Train them, have them well trained, right? They use a firearm, whether do a 6-month refresher training or every 3 months, every quarter or something like that. It's stipulated in the act or whatever, if you need to amend the act, right? So we have well-trained citizens who can protect themselves and their families. I bet you we're going to start to see a reduction in home invasions, because people are living in fear. All over Trinidad and Tobago, people are living in fear. Right now is what, 10, 11 o'clock at night in Trinidad. You think you could walk outside there on the street and walk your dog 2-3 miles away from your home, right? Talking in your cell phone, So yeah, I think we have to think strategically. We have to empower the people and the citizens who want a safer Trinidad and Tobago, right? And one way that that I would support is by our citizens, and also trying to build different strategies, watch groups, partnering with local government, and I think that we should definitely approach the local government minister and put together a proposal, right, where we can have uh, police presence at the different nodes, ensure all of the CCTVs are operating, functioning, right, and transmitting real-time data, And once we continue to compound on that success, right, and be persistent, we're going to start to see these numbers drop, So Gary, look, some people are saying we're going to get like the Wild Wild West. But no, we're not going to give guns to each and every one. You have to be a responsible, law-abiding citizens, right? And that's the only way it's going to work, right? And if the criminals know that there are persons in a community or a large portion of the community as an FUL, right? They might think twice with entering that community. They might skip that community and say, you know what? Let's try to look for a softer target. Let's look for a man and grab his gold chain or something on the street. Because I don't want to go in there and maybe they have a system where they can lock down that main access to that main entrance or that main road, right? With a gate. I saw it in Valsain also. Valsain South. I went in there to check something out and I had to go through a security checkpoint. And they had a guy had an arm, a gate there, right? And then I told him who I was going to see and visit and so forth. And took my license plate number, and then I went and I saw the person. So they're controlling who comes into the neighborhood. Not that we it's going to work all over the place, right? But let's say at 12 o'clock in the night or 2 o'clock in the night, we'll lock down our community and we have a watch group with a drone. Who's coming on to commit a crime there? When you enter, we could drop a beam across the main road or the main node and lock the entire place down. If a crime is committed, or someone sends the SOS on the radio and say, hey, someone just got robbed here, and we lock the entire place down, right? Wait for law enforcement while monitoring them or tracking them with a drone. They're running in the bush there, we have the drone overhead, right? So yeah, these are the things that we could look at, we could exploit, and we could implement a pilot project. We could take a community and adopt it and do a pilot project. I think we approach it from that perspective, and if that pilot project is successful, right, then we can expand and build on it. Gary, what do you think about that? Hello?
Hello, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, you there?
um,
Yeah. Doc, yeah, so that's just one way. That's In addition to
Yeah, I
the,
mean,
the
obviously, as I said,
multiple.
it's a multifaceted approach. What I am afraid of is that they're focusing on the firearms, which is just part of it. Well, and the other areas has to be done simultaneously. You know what I mean? It's not something that you want to just do one thing, right? So I'm just a bit scared that if you just do that alone, your rewards would not be as good as if you have a multifaceted approach. I'm just
No, no,
suggesting
it
that.
has to be
And
multifaceted.
people will handle it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it
So
could
you see, like,
it could blow up against you if you don't have the training, if you don't have
yeah,
things organized, the
Right.
correct.
education. People must
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Because you just can't. Within your house, you can't go
Yeah.
helter skelter in defending
I,
yourself because
I'm,
you're
I'm
gonna
telling you,
hurt your own
I'm telling you.
family.
My daughters, when the incident occurred with the shooting, right? I from the time I hit a button. We have a safe house, a safe room, right? My children went into that room and was lying down on the ground. My wife, who was a bit more scared, she stayed on the bed. And when the guy started shooting back at me, he didn't know what he was shooting at. He was just shooting. The bullet, right? A couple of bullets. I still have it in my glass. If you ever come by me, I'll show you. You see, the level of the bullet was the same level of the bed, except that they didn't shoot in the bedroom. They shot in the kitchen. If they had shot in the bedroom, she could have been struck because she just did not choose to go and join the children in the room. She got scared. She just froze, right? So a lot of it is training. I had a firearm. I mean, when my children were like 3 years old, first child, I had a firearm, and keeping the firearm in the house, and you had to have certain techniques and certain things that you had to learn and do, and the Rifle Association trained me, and luckily because of that, I was able to shoot the people and secure myself because they were shooting at me. It's not that I was in a range where I was just shooting at a at a target. These people were shooting back at me, and I shot two of them. And so that came with training, and it came with knowledge of protecting myself behind a very a piece of wall that was reinforced concrete, right? And not getting myself exposed to the bullet that was coming back at me. So it does need a lot of training. It does need an understanding. You have to put in a safe in your house. You have to have, if you have children, you have things that you have to learn. I mean, even when you keep your personal firearm on yourself, you have to be careful when you're taking it or when you're going to washrooms and things. So it is something that is not a simple thing to have, and we have to be, as Gary says, and Ken, that you have to have a complete package. It doesn't come with one. It is something that needs to be done in tandem with other things. But I still feel, me personally, is that it's going to deter people because if I didn't have the firearm that night, they would have come into my house. They would have pointed the gun at me in the kitchen or something, and they would have held me there, and they would have let my wife open the door. Otherwise, they would have shot me. You know what I mean? So therefore, in a
Man,
sense,
they rape your family too in front of your face.
correct, correct.
All
So
right.
luckily for that training, right, and the ability to understand what was going on, and also having the ability to kill somebody, right? In other words, then I I didn't have a problem. I could have killed them. There are a lot of people who would have the firearms and would not have the mentality, to kill somebody. So you have to also look at that as well. So I think a good psychological assessment, it is required for the firearm, but I think it has to be something that is more rigid, and there must be a different way of doing it. You know. So, but anyway, guys, I'm gonna have to leave now. I have something
Yeah,
going on
yeah,
now.
yeah. We gonna wrap out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Doc.
So
yeah,
I was expecting former Senator Damien, but apparently he could not get out from where he was. So
yeah,
with that, we'll pick up. Thank you guys for taking the time to chime in here.
yeah.
And we'll keep up with the issues that are going on and keep remain steadfast in addressing
as we see, both on air and off air.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. All right,
Good
guys. Have a
night,
good
buddy.
night.
Take care then.
Take care. Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye-bye. Bye.